What is up, everybody? Mark on the mic here, joined by Bill Krivanek from down in our consumer sales department. Bill, you're one of my favorite people. I always enjoy talking. This is your first time.
First time, yep.
We talk all the time. This is the first time on the podcast.
That's true, yep.
We're going to talk today. This is a predator hunter's pack dump. Bill, you're a pretty passionate coyote hunter, and we're going to talk about some of your kit here, which is, I'd say it's like all the essentials. You don't have the extras. It seems like you run with everything you need, but lean at the same time.
Yeah. Yep.
Which I think that's shows efficiency.
Yeah. I like running and gunning, keeping it lightweight. You know, get as many stands as you can. Usually that helps. So yeah, that's how I like to run. Just keep it lightweight and simple and the stuff you need.
How'd you get into coyote hunting?
It's pretty boring in Minnesota in late December, January, February. Ice fishing gets old after a while, and yeah, just wanted to go out and chase some animals around, so got into coyote hunting.
It is the season, you know. Big game seasons are winding down for me. You're a passionate grouse hunter.
Yep.
This is one of our main conversations. I'm like, what are you doing this weekend? You're like, I'm hunting grouse. I'm like, Bill, it's November 5th. Like, what? Anyway.
Yep.
Looking at your kit here as well, it looks like, at least judging from your AR-15, which I think we'll talk about that maybe first, your setup, and your shooting sticks, though. You got the white going on here. You like to chase these things in the snow. Yes.
Yep. Usually in Minnesota we had a lot of snow by early December, and that's usually when I'd start coyote hunting pretty hard. And yeah, it's good to blend in with the snowbank you're sitting in. So,
do you find now that you're here in Wisconsin? I mean, do you wait for the snow to fly? Is that kind of like your key? Like, yep, I'm going to start getting out, or you going to repaint this gun here at some point?
That's the hard part. I've kind of run into we don't have as much snow, so I might have to buy a new gun that isn't white then. So
yeah, don't repaint.
Yeah. Yep, just get a different one. So have a non-snow and a snow.
That's a way better idea.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this thing.
Yeah.
What do you got going on here? What's your your weapon of choice chasing these critters around?
So I like using the AR-15. I had a 223 bolt gun that I was using before. It was just a Savage. Worked great. The thing I like about the AR is I can just stay on target a little bit easier. So after a first shot, you've got a follow-up. After a second coyote or something like that, you can just keep your head on the in the scope, keep your eye on the target, and keep putting rounds down range. So that's kind of why I like running the AR-15 instead of the bolt gun, but both are great options still.
For sure. Fast follows, whether you need to follow up on a coyote that you missed, or you need to get another bullet in, or like you said, you call in a pair, and generally that second dog isn't going to stick around too long, but I see you've got something on the end of your rifle here, and I want to ask you about that. And if you've called in any, doubles or triples or whatever, call in multiples, and had the suppressor help with getting a follow-up shot on that second dog.
Yeah, I believe it did. I've called in before I was using a suppressor, and I'd call in two of them, a 3-pack, something like that. That first shot, usually they're getting out of there. They know there's a hunter there. They're bugging out. After I started running a suppressor, I noticed that second dog would usually stop and turn around after about running 100, 150 yards.
Okay.
Almost like they didn't know for sure if that was a shot. Was that just the, ice popping on the pond I'm hunting on, or what was it? So a lot of times you can get a second shot, and then I've noticed, running a suppressor. So it's always better to get 2 dogs in one.
Oh, yeah. And then you're like, surprise, it's Bill that's popping. You're dead. Cool, man. So, yeah, this is, what do you got at... What do you got? Ryan would be very proud with your optics selection right now. You got one of his favorites on top.
Yeah, he played a big part, and I was actually running the Viper HS 4-16x44 for...
That's what I would have told you to get.
A few years, yep, and I liked it, killed a lot of coyotes with it, but hunting around, Wisconsin, Minnesota, I realized that most of my shots, I was on 4 power on that scope.
No kidding, huh?
Yeah. So most of my shots are within 125 yards usually.
Okay.
And, so going down to a 2.5 to 10, it's better in low light than what that 4-16 is, and you're getting a wider field of view at 2.5 power, so it's a little bit easier to find a coyote at 10, 15 yards, in that scope. So
you're getting them to come in tight.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy doing. I did a lot of like nighttime hunting, so I don't run thermal, but I would just run, wait for the full moon, and usually you have like 3 days before the full moon, 3 days after the full moon, where there's plenty of light if you have good snow cover. That you can see a coyote running across, open field, across a pond, something like that. So it worked out really well.
Gotcha. That's cool. Well, speaking of getting them to come in tight, what's your call suite look like?
So I am a Fox Pro guy. I've been running Fox Pros for quite a few years now. I had a Fox Pro Fusion before, which is just a little bit smaller, has 2 speakers, just one on the back, one on the front. Recently upgraded to the Fox Pro Shockwave, which you're getting, just a couple more speakers, and you can angle them to the direction you want to send the sound. So
gotcha.
A little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, but I think it's a little bit louder too with those multiple speakers and just getting that sound out better. So
you think volume's a pretty big key?
Yeah, kind of depends on the area you're hunting, but the louder you can get, the farther the coyotes are going to be able to hear you then. So
I don't want you to give up too many of your trade secrets, but what are some of your go-to sounds? And do you have a sound that you're like, I mix it up with this one? Not everybody's using that one.
Yeah, that'll have a lot to do with like the area you're hunting and the pressure they're seeing.
Okay.
If I'm hunting a lot of like farm fields or where there's farms around, kitten distress might sound terrible, but coyotes love to eat feral cats and kittens. So yeah, they hear that. They usually think it's an easy meal and they come in. So they've heard the cottontail distress 100 times probably. I usually will stay away from that if I'm hunting a high pressure area. Stick with the bird distress, domestic distress, raccoon. I'm a big fan of like raspy woodpecker. For some reason it works really good. Worked great for me out in Wyoming even, which didn't make sense to me.
Okay.
I had a guy out there tell me don't do too much of the jackrabbit distress. Try a woodpecker. I'm like, I haven't seen a tree in 3 days out here, but okay. And it worked two stands in a row calling in coyotes on raspy woodpeckers. So I was like, all right, we're just going to stick with that then out here.
That's awesome, man. Very cool. Very cool. What else you got going on here that you're packing with you? Do you have a backpack?
Yeah, I have a pack down here. That's just a Fleet Farm special. Nothing crazy about it, but it just has a lot of different spots to put stuff. Fits my sticks I shoot off of, the seat I like to sit on. Basically, it just needs to fit everything you're going to bring out there because you don't have a lot of hands open when you're walking out there. So
cool.
Yep, I have that. Like I said, the seat that I like to sit on, keeping your butt off of the snow helps you stay warmer longer.
Okay.
It's a lot easier to shoot a coyote when you're not shivering. So staying warm is key. Keeping your butt off the snow that helps a lot, and also elevates you if you're sitting in grass just a little bit so you can see over it.
That's the kind of the main thing that I noticed about that one. It's like not a ton of insulation, but it is keeping you dry and out of the snow.
Yeah.
But that little extra bit of elevation there for sure if you need it.
Yep.
So
turkey seats, they work really well too, but I like this one just because it fit in my pack way easier. And then just a set of simple bipod. You can get pretty fancy with those, but I like to keep it simple. I've been running this one for quite a few years, and it can extend pretty high too if I want to actually stand and shoot. I can do that, but most of the time I'm just extending the first legs out and using it that way, and I can quickly and easily maneuver if I have to. Gotcha.
Like swivel head on there for panning and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I like those actually.
Yep. Yeah, works well. And it's lightweight too, so trying to keep it as light as possible.
Yeah, I dig that. Custom paint job?
Custom paint job, yep. Did that a few years ago. Probably needs a touch up again, but it works.
I like it. What got some hand calls here too. So we went over the collar, got some looks like actually some Fox Pro hand calls as well.
Yep. I like having those hand calls on just in case, like if I'm walking into a stand and I bump a coyote or something like that and I quickly want to get a sound out, try to get him to stop or get him to not freak out too much and leave the area. Or same for like walking out. I've had a few times where you get done calling, you sit for a little while, you don't see anything, you stand up, start packing up, and a coyote starts howling at you from across a pond. So it's nice to have those handy, real quick, and you can get a sound at them and usually get them to come in then. So,
yeah, I mean, you coyote hunt more than I do, but I do like having multiple hand calls, some open reads and some closed reads and things like that, just to mix it up. And it seems like sometimes if it's super cold out, your call can freeze up a little bit, and you gotta you got to switch to a freshie.
Yep. That's another good reason to run the hand calls. So yeah, I always like to have those handy. I do have a diaphragm call too that I'll sometimes keep in my mouth while I'm calling, just to throw it a little bit more realistic, in case they aren't believing the electric call too much. Switching up to a diaphragm or an open reed, a lot of times that'll just give them that extra boost of confidence to come in then.
Cool, man. Cool. What light you got? Looks like you got a light there.
Just a typical headlight. It's when I was out night hunting, it's not very fun tracking a coyote with you're holding your flashlight on your phone in one hand and holding the AR in the other. So having a headlight's always nice to have. I'll usually actually carry 2 of them in case the battery dies. Also, I have a coyote drag, which is I just got this a couple of years ago, but I absolutely love it. Coyote Cords made this one. Basically, you can loop the coyotes either their front wrist or behind their canines. Around there, it cinches down on them. Throw this over your shoulder, and then you can drag them out, because it's not very fun holding a coyote while you're walking out. You're tripping over it, and if you have multiple coyotes you have to carry out, you can put 2 on there at least.
I was going to say, it looks like you have room for 2.
Yep.
So, yeah, and it appears you've used both of these.
Yep, that is true.
Cool. No, I like that. I've drug a few coyotes out just by, grabbing a leg, and it's just, you're kind of hunched over. Yeah. It's like, that's a way better and lightweight. You're not out anything, and that'll,
saves your back a little bit. So
that'll save you. Rangefinder.
Run the Viper 3000. It's got 7x magnification. A lot of times I'll just use that for general glassing, and also I will range find specific spots where I think coyotes might be coming up, before I even start calling, just to know, hey, this is within 200 yards. Don't need to hold over at all on that. So it's good to always range those targets too.
Before we started, Bill, I said, do you have binoculars? I just assumed that you forgot them. And this is where we might differ on our kit. I cannot stand just going outside without my binoculars.
Okay.
I mean, I use them a lot. A lot. I don't know how you're doing it.
Yeah, if I was going to use some, I'd probably go with the Diamondback 8x32, something small.
Okay.
That, doesn't take up a lot of space. But I've just found having the chest harness on, it just is kind of too bulky for me. A lot of times it has a hard time fitting over when I have a bunch of layers on.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm not against using a binocular. It's just something that I have 7x magnification here that I can use. So, and this is smaller and lighter weight.
I mean, I can see where it definitely does double duty, and it probably actually it probably actually would suit my needs in a lot of ways. Maybe it's because I'm always like, oh, what's that? It's not even I'm oh, I'm glassing for a coyote. I'm like, oh, what's that over there? And maybe I'd shoot more coyotes if I wasn't getting distracted. But cool, man. I mean, it's a really cool setup. It's lean, it's mean, it's effective. I know you have a high level of success when you're going out. And I think it's just this is a really good example of the essentials.
Yeah.
I mean, what you have here are the essentials. It's not necessarily breaking the bank. This isn't, some, 6 to 36, it's not the Gen 3.
Yep.
It's doing exactly what you need to do. And I think also, in some ways, it's a good example of, don't overscope. This is the tool for the job for how you're hunting. You don't need a high magnification, first focal plane.
Yeah.
Those are great features. Those are great features, and I use those features, but in the right scenario.
Yeah.
In this scenario, this is the optimal setup.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. You don't need. I talk to a lot of guys that call in, and I thought the same thing too when I first started coyote hunting. I need a 5 to 25 power scope. I need something that's going to have first focal plane, illuminated reticle. I need all the bells and whistles, and I was trying to shoot coyotes at 10 yards.
Right.
It didn't work out well. So quick switched over to second focal plane. As low a magnification as I can go. I shoot most of my coyotes, like I said, on 4 power. So yeah, I'm not a huge believer in the whole huge scope on a coyote rifle, especially if you're calling them. Now, if you're just spotting and stalking them, shooting 400 or 500 yards, yeah, then you might want it. But for Minnesota, Wisconsin, pretty much anywhere here in the Midwest, you don't need much more than 10 power, 16 power max.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think oftentimes around here, by the time you see one, unless you get one like way across some, ag field or something like that. But if you're calling and by the time you see them, they're probably in range.
Yep, exactly.
So, cool, man. Well, Bill, thanks for giving us a rundown on your coyote kit. 'Tis the season.
Yep. I went out on Sunday. I bet we heard probably 20, 25 coyotes, but just set up a little not ideal, and we're going to probably be going out in the next couple of days, and now we know where they're sleeping at, so I think we'll be able to get them.
Did you say 25?
Yeah, it was pretty insane. We started calling, and the first howl started like at sunset, and then for a half hour, it was basically just different packs of coyotes howling all over the valley. Basically, I bet half mile out, 3/4 mile out, we were hearing coyotes. So a lot of coyotes in the area. Just got to figure out where they're staying at, where they're sleeping at, move in closer on them, and I think we'll get them.
Dude, you got me pumped up, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get out too. So cool. Well, thanks, everybody, for listening. Bill, thank you again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on the podcast. And, what's your coyote kit look like? Hopefully you found this helpful. I know I did. And what are you using? What's working for you out there? Are you getting ready to get out? Are your big game seasons over?
Mm-hmm. Grouse season's almost closing up here. Pheasant seasons are almost done. So, yeah.
It's time you don't have to just pack it in for the year.
Yeah, exactly.
Just pack some different gear.
Exactly. Yep.
So, awesome. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thank you.
Take care. We'll catch you on the next one.